So let's do that. Alright, let me show you what I'm thinking here. I want a 3-inch I want to have a couple of hook hangers up here on the front. What that'll do is that'll give me some adjustment, so I can either have a tighter wiggle or a wider one, and it'll allow me to fish it a little bit differently. A couple of things about this design. This flat head that I've put on there, I've done that because I intend to work this one at a slower speed than normal. If you want to be able to run this lure faster, you'd make that a rounded top. But I'm going to make it a flat surface. That'll let me work this lure really slow, but it'll give it a stronger action, hopefully. I'm also going to put the weight under here and maybe a little bit here, because what I want it to do is to pitch forward like this as I'm reeling it in, and what that'll do is that'll keep those hooks, it'll keep the hooks behind the nose. So let me just draw a quick hook. So as I'm pulling forward, this nose will tip down and the hook will dangle back here, and hopefully if I hit any brush, the nose will hit it and pitch it over the stump and then clear the hooks. That's the idea anyway. While we're here, this is 3/4 inch thick wood. I want it to be 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut off part of this thickness. Tell you what, I'm going to use the fence that came with this thing. profile. So I'm going to come back about 1.25 inches, and then I'm going to start my taper to the tail. Let me find the center here. Now, since there's not a whole lot to remove there, I'm just going to sand it off. Now, it's interesting to me, I was thinking about when I was a kid. My family would go up to Colorado and we would fish the Conejos River. And one of our activities to do was to whittle. We would get one of those, my dad would cut one of those willow bushes that was growing next to the river. He'd get each of us a long piece of willow, and then we'd take it back to the cabin and we would get our pocket knives out and we would carve walking sticks. Kind of became a little bit of a tradition. And I remember as the years progressed, I would get better and better at it. And then it was a long time. It was many years passed. You know, I grew up, moved out of the house, and started my own life. And didn't do any time, and then I started picking up this lure building. And I guess the interesting part that I was thinking about is how things tend to come back around eventually. Skills that you learned when you were a little kid, you didn't think maybe that you'd ever use again, but they stay with you. The Conejos River was a good river, and it may still be. I don't really know. I haven't been there in a while. But I remember they were dealing with this whirling disease, and so they stopped stocking the river with rainbows, and the fishing just gradually tapered off and got worse and worse. But I can remember when I was a kid, we'd go out there when I was really little. We'd fish with salmon eggs and tiny little hooks and bobbers. And I remember one time the guy that was stocking the river, he had his truck there, and he saw my dad with us, teaching us how to fish and everything, and he said, "Why don't you come over here?" And he showed us where he'd just released a bunch of trout out of his truck, and so we went over there and fished a little bit downstream from that, and we caught a ton of little fish. And I didn't think about it at the time, but experiences like that are what kind of got me hooked on this. My sister and I would sit there and we'd catch our limit on rainbows. We'd take them back to the cabin, and my mom would cook them. We'd eat them. We'd eat them for breakfast and lunch and dinner. And I didn't really like trout to eat, to tell you the truth, but as I've gotten older, I've acquired that taste, and I mostly release them these days, but every once in a while I'll keep one, cook it up. I've kind of wanted to go hiking up to a alpine lake and catch trout. I've wanted to do that for a long time. Maybe I need to think about putting that trip together. That'd be pretty cool. I could make some special trout lures just for that. Alright, let's drill the hardware holes. See how I'm keeping my finger away from here. I don't want to drill into my hand. But we're getting like dangerously close to coming through on that. And hopefully these won't run into one another. I'm going to try and drill this one there. I'm going to drill this one kind of back. Let's see. So that one's kind of going back like that. Kind of got a lot going on here, so I better plan ahead, huh? One there, one there. I'm going to put one right there in the chin. One pretty close to the hardware hole, the lower hook hanger. Two of them actually. I'm going to put one back here and one back here. And I'm going to go ahead and drill 4. I don't know exactly how many I need, but I'm going to go ahead and drill them, seal it, and then I'll balance this thing after I seal it. Alright, that'll give us plenty of options, and any of them I don't use I can fill up. Here's my stirring stick. Hold on. You ever lose anything in your shop? Oh well, I can't find it. I'll just get another one. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I like to use epoxy to install these bits of hardware instead of super glue, because I think it gets in the little crevices and I think it's stronger. I need to do a test on that though. Maybe one of these days I'll set up a test and we'll just do some like pull-out test or something. Get it on the threads pretty evenly. Hold on, I need pliers. thing I try to do, you can see, especially here on this belly, I leave a little bit of space. I'll get something to point with here. I leave a little bit of space here because I'm going to have quite a few layers of clear coat built up, and so if I seat that down too far, it'll be hard to get my split rings and everything in there in the end. So I try and give myself a little bit of space. It's a little bit less of a worry here on the top. Make sure everything's centered and lined up the way you want it, because once this stuff sets, you're done. Right in there. Alright, let's let it set up. Alright, so I've let this set overnight, and part of the reason I leave the tape out with the epoxy on it is so that I can double check. I know that if it's done on the tape, then it's done on the lure. By the way, I've got a new addition to the shop that I'm really excited to show you about. It's a new, to me, chair, which is really nice because standing here all day long kind of wears you out, so it's nice to have a chair. This one swivels, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to use this to test my weight. Don't worry, I've decommissioned it. I no longer use it to drink out of. It is strictly used for lure balancing. To properly balance this, we're going to need some hooks and some rings. I'm using size 4 hooks. I always like to start with one of these sanding blocks to knock off the high points, and then I'll do the detail sanding with some smaller bits. This saves a lot of time. So we've known each other for a long time, right? Made a lot of lures together. I mean, we're pretty close by now. So I feel like I can show you some really top secret stuff. Why don't you come around a little bit closer here? I don't want anybody to overhear what I'm about to say. I'm going to show you how I foil my lures. But you gotta promise not to tell anybody. No blabbing. Let's get right into it. So the foil I use is this Sure Tape AF F914. All it is it's just an aluminum tape that I got at the hardware store. They use it to repair air ducts and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple of pieces of it. Now it's important to flip your pattern over, okay? Because you need one for each side. Okay, now the next thing you want to do, well, there's a number of ways to go about this. This is the way I do it. I don't like my gills to have any kind of pattern on them. So I'm going to mark those gills. And then what I'll do is I'll try and avoid that when I'm putting my scale pattern on. Anyway, as I was saying, there's lots of ways to achieve a texture on this foil. And I just stuck a piece on this lure that I've started just to demonstrate. So some people will put it on there and then they'll score it with an X-Acto knife, and then they'll do their pattern, right? Whatever their little signature look is. So you can cut it with an X-Acto knife and that'll give you a pattern. The other thing you can do, and it's what I did on this lure right here, so you can see I've got a pattern here, and then it's not so easy to see, but there's another pattern above it. But anyway, what I did with that is I took this screwdriver. It's got these lines on it. I just roll it like so, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and that gives me a pattern like that. And then if I want a checkered pattern, I just roll that on there, and that gives me a little bit more of a checkered pattern. So, lots of ways to achieve that. What I'm going to do is a little bit different. Okay, what we need is a magazine, or in this case, I'm just going to use a calendar that I've got lying around. And then you're going to cut a piece of screen material. This is just a diamond pattern screen. And I'm going to secure it to my magazine material. Alright, and then I'm going to take my lure foil here, and I like to orient mine up and down. I want that diamond pattern to be consistent. So I'm going to get another piece of tape. I also don't want it moving around a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the pattern up and down the way I want it. I'm going to gently tape it down here. I'm going to be careful not to put any pressure around that gill area. So then what I'm going to do, now that I've got it kind of secured on there, is I'm going to just rub it on. I'm going to go right up to the gill. Okay, and once you've got it rubbed in, and you can remove it, and that gives you a nice solid pattern. to do this next part on a towel because what I don't want to do is mess up my foil from here on out. I'm going to peel off the backing. I'm going to go around the edges with my X-Acto handle because it's nice and smooth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to really press those edges down. And I don't care if I mess up the texture just on the edge. Doesn't matter. We're going to cover that. It's much more important to get a good closure on that. Alright, I got these tools from a hobby store. They're embossing tools, but it's just a wooden handle and it's got these just ball on the end, different sizes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger to push it just enough that I can start to see my detail. You can start to see it coming through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the biggest one and emboss that detail in. You want to go slow and easy because you can tear this foil and then you'll have to start over. Now with the eye is inset pretty deep. So I do a few around, and then I go on ahead and break it in the middle. And then around and around and around. It's okay if that one tears. Okay. Then I'm going to go down to the next size. And so on until I get down to the finer detail. Now the only place that I use the smallest one is right here. And then these 3 gill marks right here, the finest cuts. Okay. Now, if you wanted to, and I've seen this done, where you can emboss your initials on there or, some little logo or whatever you wanted to do, you could do that now. I'm not going to. I use the decals on the bottom, but you certainly could do that. You could also come in and add more stippling detail if you wanted to. Just a matter of personal preference. And then what I like to do is I like to do some stippling. you do it again on the other side. First of all, let's change this water out. Ooh. Is that a bug? Yeah. That's how you know it's time to change your water out. It's got bugs in it. There's another one. Yeah. Let's freshen that up, shall we? The base color on this goldfish is going to be yellow. Now you've got a couple of choices you can make on your base coat. I'm going to be painting it directly onto the foil. I can use a transparent paint, which I've done before and it looks pretty good. Or you can use an ink. And I'm using this Pinata color Sunbright Yellow. But that's why I'm wearing gloves, because unlike paint, which washes off, this ink will definitely stain, so you got to be a little bit more careful with it. I do like that it's in a little dropper bottle. That's very handy. Okay, I want to build this up in very slow, thin layers. See how transparent that is? So next we're going to move on to a clear coat layer. I'm going to turn the lights off on this because out here in the garage there's little gnats and I don't want them to be attracted to this epoxy. Alright, I'm going to cover the seams on the top and the bottom with opaque white. As you can see, I've got some significant overspray on this lure. I think the biggest reason for that is I'm trying to hug a camera while painting and it's a little bit difficult for me to do. I'm going to have to find a different setup for painting where I'm able to get to the lure like I need to. But, should this happen to you, what you can do is you can get a little bit of water on a paper towel. You can kind of just wipe off the excess there. You gotta be real careful with this operation though. It's easy to mess up the work you did. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm also going to get a Q-tip, a wet Q-tip, and I'm going to get in these more detailed areas and the gills and stuff. The next color we're going to use is pearlized white, and we're going to use that on the belly. What we want to do is fade that pearl into the yellow. And also, you may not be able to pick this up, but I'm going to bring that white up a little bit higher on the belly. So you can kind of see it a little bit better under this kind of light on the belly, where we fade into the pearl white. Alright, now we're going to go over the back with transparent yellow, and really the objective here is to just cover the white portion along the top, and then we'll roll slightly over on the front end as well. Next, I'm going to put another clear coat over the whole thing. After your clear coat cures, dries, whatever, cut out a piece of this mesh, same that we used to do the scale detail, and you're going to cut out a square that, and then you're just going to kind of work it around the shape of your lure. Part of the reason I clear coat this is so that I don't damage the paint with the mesh, because it is metal, and so it'll scratch your paint off. But if you've got a clear coat layer on there, it protects that coat you've got underneath. Plus, it kind of what it'll do is it'll raise these. That clear coat will raise these this orange that we're about to paint, this scale pattern, and it gives it kind of a little bit more of a 3D effect. It sort of floats above the color below. The key thing on this is that you want it really tight. On this pattern, for sure, you want it really tight on the top. I don't really care about the bottom and the sides so much. I'm just trying to keep it really tight on the top, because that's where I'm going to be painting. And you don't want a gap between your mesh and your bait, or it'll not be a nice crisp. It won't be a really crisp scale pattern. Our final color here is going to be fluorescent orange. We're going to bring it down the side, but I do want to leave a stripe of yellow in there. You're also going to want to go over this with iridescent orange before you remove the mesh. Okay, I want to be real careful when I'm taking this mesh off not to scratch the paint I just did, so I'm holding it kind of firmly down here below where I've painted till I get it open. Boom. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Q-tip and water, and I'm going to remove the scale pattern off the face. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade over the face with that orange. Again, you're going to do a base coat of fluorescent orange covered by a layer of iridescent orange. Alright, now it's time for the most stressful part of this thing, at least to me. putting the eyes on. I actually hate putting eyes on because I'm so close to being finished, and I can screw it up real easily with an eye. See, easy does it now. That wasn't so bad. I always glue these on. They have an adhesive back on them, but it really, I don't think it sticks well enough. Ooh, here we go. I always have this fear of like a gallon of this super glue coming out and going everywhere and ruining the paint, which it can do. There we go. We're going to start using the tweezers. That's a lot easier. Suppose I should also put my decal on there. Do y'all want to see that? You want to see a decal? Yeah? Okay. Well, I'll show you my decals, but we're going to let that ink dry for quite a while. It stays wet forever, so let's let that do its thing, and then we'll put a decal on it. I don't think I've ever showed y'all how I do my decals, and really all it is it's just a water slide decal. You get down at the hobby store, you get the paper, and you print on it, and there's a spray over by the paper that you get after you've printed it, and after it's dried, you spray it with this kind of a clear coat stuff, and then it's just a matter of cutting it out and putting it on. If you've ever built a model airplane or anything like that, it's the same thing. But if you haven't, then I'll show you how it works. You just want to cut it out. You don't have to get it like super close to your print. I like to get mine about like this, okay? Because it's a relatively small area that I'm putting this on, and so I don't want this big honking decal on there. Alright, so after I cut it out, I'll put it in my water, fully submerged, for just a few seconds, not very long at all. That's probably long enough right there. You leave it in too long, it'll eventually soak through your clear coat. Okay, and then what I do is I go ahead and carefully dab off the excess. Here's why it's called a water slide. Let me get in close so you can see. See, it slides off the paper and there's a clear part. You hold it onto there and then you slide your paper out. And then you have just not very long at all to reposition. like that. Now what you want to do, once you've got it straight, come on, don't be like that to me. You're going to roll from the center out with a Q-tip. You're just squeezing that water out from the center out. Don't wipe. Like that. Don't wipe like that. You want to roll and push. Putting some pressure on there because I want it to squeeze all the water out. Okay. Done. Then you can clear coat over it. I would give it just a couple of seconds to dry off, but it doesn't take very long. I'm going to get it back on my little stick here. Let me just throw it down. Let's do that. That's probably really good for it. Okay, and I'm going to give my ink a little touch test. Okay, I think we're ready to clear coat. Alright, I want to start with a close-up shot here because I want y'all to see. Hopefully the camera will pick it up. I want y'all to see what happens when you put a clear coat on it. Clear coat is kind of transformative. It always makes your work look better. I think it has to do with the way that the clear coat bends the light, and what it does is it makes things more reflective. It takes the dullness off of whatever you paint, but it also allows the light to kind of bend between the layers. See what I mean? Versus the other side, right? Alright. Then I hit it with the torch. Make sure there's no bubbles. I don't see any, but we're going to pop them anyway. Hey guys, I appreciate you tuning in to watch this video. As you know, if you've watched my other videos, I usually at this point will take that lure out and do some fishing and try and catch a fish with it. Unfortunately, that's not a possibility right now. The area where I live in is under a shelter-in-place order, so I can't go out and I can't go fishing. So I'm going to have to just post videos of making lures, and maybe once all this is lifted, we can go out and I'll take all the lures and I'll fish them all. I'll just have a big fishing day. I appreciate you watching, and stay safe, and I'll see you on the next video.